even just sitting there in the doctor's surgery in his office, and he says what's wrong, and you need to tell him. You need to tell him that there's something wrong with you, like in your head. You need to tell another, like a professional man, even one who's there to help you. You need to tell him that you're fucked in the head. That is tough. Well, hello everybody. I don't really know how you're supposed to start this, so I'll just say welcome to the Shauny Boy podcast, tentatively titled. And I think this is just going to be me talking about all the things that I want to talk about, all the stuff that's driving me mental, all the stuff that's driving me insane, because the world's a crazy place right now. And instead of me just sitting, going mental quietly by myself, I think it's good if I share that and drive you mental as well. I don't really know what we're going to be talking about, but I think that'll be a good first topic would be mental health. Mental health. Because that's in just now. That's big. Or at least people talking about it is big. Whether actually anything happens with it and whether actually any help is available, that's a different story. But we'll get into that. It's a beautiful sunny day, and I am stuck inside doing this because, well, that's the time allotted to me. That's the time where I have the house to myself. So rather than being outside enjoying the beach or whatever, I'm in here recording this nonsense, which is fun. So hope all of you are out there enjoying the sunshine, because I'm not. But oh well. So mental health, that's big just now. You see that sort of everywhere. You see that online, a lot of people talking about it's okay not to be okay, hashtag. And then they go on and, bully people online and try to cancel people and start pylons and contribute to the detriment of somebody else's mental health, which, in a sane world would be called being a hypocrite. But we're not exactly living in a sane society just now. People just do a whole load of crap, and it doesn't make any sense, and it just drives me around the bend. As someone who has suffered from severe mental health issues over the years, it's quite something to see. All that online stuff really, it annoys the shit out of me. It really does. Especially because you know the type of people who constantly going on about it, and they are the type of people who do contribute to other people's mental health issues. They definitely contribute to mine. There's nothing like scrolling Twitter and just feeling as if your head's going to explode because everything's just fucking mental. It's just fucking insane, and that can be difficult to take in. It's probably not good for your mental health in general. Just social media, just it's the pits, man. It's fucking bad. It is bad. But we'll get on to that probably. I think we can probably do an entire episode just about the detriment of social media's contribution to the detriment of modern society. That'll be a good one. Twitter will definitely get it in the neck. And all the blue ticks, but we'll get there. We'll get on to that. But myself, I have suffered from mental health issues for a number of years, and probably longer than that if I was honest. But back in the day, I would never have described the things that I was experiencing as mental health issues, because it wasn't a big part of that conversation. I grew up, I was a teenager in the noughties, and mental health just wasn't really, you didn't talk about it. You didn't, not in like a serious way. Definitely not how people discuss it now, which is, it's a sign of things getting slightly better. I think the the way we talk about mental health. People sometimes often exaggerate how much better it is today, because a lot of it is just posturing, and a lot of it is just talking about mental health, not actually talking about mental health, not actually talking about the issues which cause it, not actually discussing it in an open way, contributing factors and the difficulties we all face. A lot of it's just surface level. But even in the noughties, you didn't even get that. And that was strange, because that was the emos and the goths, of which I may have been slightly affiliated at some point. The emos and the goths and the skaters and depression and stuff was very big in the emo circles. But again, that's more of like a trend. That's more of an identity that you sort of put on, or at least that's how it felt to me. I could be entirely wrong, and mental health was a big thing in the noughties. I just didn't notice. But I don't think that's the case. And again, I think a lot of that, the emos and the goth stuff, a lot of that is just surface level. That's just, an affectation that you sort of wear. It's not really a serious attempt to delve into the issues. But I think the first experience I had with it, looking back, it was probably when I was about 18, 19. I don't remember exactly. But I'd left school. And I wasn't one of these people who had an avenue after high school. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't have a railway to follow. There are people who are going to become doctors, or going to become lawyers, and that was a straightforward path. You did certain subjects in high school, and then you went on to university, and then you did that. I didn't have that, so I was kind of lost a bit. And what I found in high school was there wasn't much help if you didn't already know what you wanted to do. It seems as if all the teachers and everything and careers advisors, it was geared towards the lawyers and the doctors and people who predominantly were following in their parents' footsteps. People who already had that sort of plan. And if you didn't have a plan, you're fucked. And it was... it wasn't great at the end. But yeah, about 17, 18, 19, I don't know. I'd been working in an office for a while, and that came to an end, and I was unemployed, or I was still working in the office. I don't know. It was roughly that time. But I didn't want to be there, is essentially it. I was living at home with my parents, I was living at the back end of nowhere, and you're just feeling trapped, feeling like there was nowhere for you to go. It's like you're in a cage or something like that. You're stuck in a cage, and I just felt trapped. I just felt like I was suffocating a bit, and I used to call it a mindset. That's what I used to, talking to my mum and stuff about it, and I'd just call it a mindset, because obviously I was a moody bastard at the time, so I had to explain that more than just being a fucking pain in the arse teenager. But I called it a mindset. But looking back on it, that was probably my first experience with a wee bit of depression, a wee depressive episode. It didn't last too long, thankfully. But that was probably the first experience of it. And it wasn't too bad, but it was, looking back on it, you can see how that could have probably developed into something bad. And many years later, I probably had similar experiences when I went to university. Just moments, days, weeks where everything was going good, but again, you're feeling trapped. You're feeling, is this what I want to do? Am I wasting my time? Am I even meant to be here? And you're feeling that sort of darkness clawing at you a wee bit. Again, luckily that didn't last for long, and I didn't even attempt to call that mental health issues back in those days, and that was a few years later on. So the conversation had opened up a bit, but I don't think it was me refusing to see it. It's just you're not putting two and two together. making that connection. But luckily, as I said, that ended quite quickly, and it wasn't until about 5 years after that, maybe 6, I don't know, 4, 5 years, 6, I don't know. Time means nothing to me these days. It was after uni. I'd been working in a kitchen, in a fast food place in a kitchen, as I'd done all throughout uni. And anyone who's ever worked on a kitchen knows it's fucking shite. It is. It's just horrible, man. It is. You're like the lowest of the low, but you're expected to, you know, everything relies on you. You're the one who makes the food and prepares it all and all the rest of it. But yeah, you're treated like shit. The people are always good, like your colleagues and that, they're always a good laugh, but just the whole thing, the whole setup about it, I hated it, man. I hated it. And I was back living at my parents again. Arse end of nowhere. Pretty similar to after I left high school. I was living in the garage. It was like a converted office thing, so it wasn't like I was just getting packed out into the garage. Don't need my mom getting pulled up for like child abuse or something. But no, I was like that, and I felt everything closing in on me. So I quit that job because I got terrified that if I didn't quit it, I'd be stuck there for like until I was like 50 or 60. You know, I couldn't see a way out if I didn't leave. Looking at it now though, keeping a job until you're 50 or 60s, that's good going. There's none of them about anymore. So it would have been probably beneficial if I just stayed there. But I would have been driven insane, so that would be bad. But it was after that, and then, you know, I had a long-term relationship, it ended. And that just sent you down a whole big spiral of depression. And that was my first real experience of bad depression, like really bad depression. And it was just I think it was just a mixture of all those things, mixture at end of uni, no real prospects because I was just an idiot and didn't really prepare properly. And, you know, long-term relationship ending, that's going to affect the MD. So it's just and being back at home with your parents, Jesus Christ. That'd drive anybody insane. After time living away by yourself, doing what you want to do. So yeah, that sent me into a big spiral of depression. You know, I wasn't doing anything. I was moping about in a Yoda dressing gown, just all day, and I'd sleep most of the day as well. So I'd be sleeping just all day. You know, barely getting up for food. I think I probably hardly ate. You know, and the few times I got up, I was just looking for jobs and stuff, and the whole job hunting process, that's enough to send anybody to a spiraling pit of despair as it is, you know. All the bullshit and corporate buzzwords and all the bollocks that you just roll your eyes at, you know. Can you do this thing? I can do this thing. Here's proof. Or here's transferable skills, right? But you've got to just wade through all the shit just to get your foot in the door, and it's pretty bad. It's still pretty bad. It hasn't improved matters. Long for the days, what's his face, for Dragon's Den, Duncan Bannatyne saying, just go hand your CV in, do it in person, it shows that you're keen. You can't do that shit anymore. Fucking end. People just chase you out, tell you to go online. It's a nonsense, so it is. But I was depressed for a good few months after that. And that was a bad time. That was a bad time. But then I got a job doing something, and then that came to an end, and then I got a job doing a few other bits and pieces, and so you're pulled out of it when you've got stuff to do. That's always the case. You're pulled out of it when you've sort of got stuff to do. But I think I'm always gonna have a mild form of depression. It's always like even when you're pulled out of it, you've still got that like low level depression, and that is just waiting. It's always just waiting to come and rise to the surface. That's what I've found anyway. But yeah, so a few years, and I was struggling with it on and off. At times, it got really bad. Suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideations. Didn't want to be here. Felt I was, you're watching people you went to school with, your friends and that, and they're, they got good jobs, they're getting good money, they're buying houses somehow, they're having kids, they're having weddings, and you're just sort of like twiddling your thumbs, feeling shit, feeling completely and utterly lost, and just feeling alien to everything around you. You're feeling like you don't belong, and you get that depressive voice in the back of your head telling you that that's right, you don't belong. Just come for a wee depression nap, don't go out, don't see MD, nobody wants you anyway. So these things are, it was tough. It's been tough feeling, you're ashamed of it. You're ashamed of suffering from mental health issues. Mainly because you feel useless. Mainly because I feel like I've lost my late 20s. I feel like I've lost about 5 years of my life purely because of depression. Purely because I've been so depressed that it's had such a knock-on effect on everything else. Because you limit yourself, and you don't want to drag anybody else down. They say it's good to talk, it's okay to talk, but you just feel like you're a pain in the arse to everybody. And I've spoken about it with my friends and that. I've been quite open about how you're feeling, and sometimes they share sort of their similar experiences. If they've been long-term unemployed or whatever, and they've fallen down a pit of despair. But you don't want to keep going on about it. And you don't want to be just that guy who's always, always turns up to something and he's moody or whatever. And so you stop sort of contacting people. You stop going out. And you stop going to things. The prospect of somebody inviting you to something, and the idea of you having to go and just pretend that you're alright is... It's too much to bear. You shut yourself off. And then, then you end up losing friends because of it. Not through anything, but just lack of contact. Just, you feel ashamed of yourself. And you feel that you should have done more. I always feel I've wasted my life so far. And I feel like I don't want to meet anybody that I've known back in the day, because I'll have nothing to talk about. Oh, what have you been up to? Oh, I've been getting married and I had the kids, and what have I done? I've done nothing. And I genuinely feel shame about that. I feel embarrassed about it. I do. I feel embarrassed about it. It's tough to keep going. And it's tough to live with feeling like that. And, men especially, we'll probably got any specifics about male mental health, but men especially, they, their friendships predominantly work around activities, something as simple as going to the pub or football, or, if you're into gaming or you're into something else, it's an activity that you do that's usually how men bond. Or, they don't just come over for a cup of tea. That's just mainly, I know it's a stereotype in that, but that's mainly the dynamic, is men have to be doing something to be bonding with one another. And so when you're not going out and you're not doing that, your relationships just fall by the wayside. And it's not, it's not for anybody's fault. Oh, I would say it was my fault because you're sort of retreating into yourself. But it's not like, I know people might say, well, if they were your friends, they would have checked up on you and blah, 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 blah. Aye, they do a bit and whatever, but in the long term, like, they've got stuff going on. They've got families now, they get their careers, whatever else, you know. People just fall apart. That's just sort of how it is. And it's a sad thing, but, you know, it's not... I do feel guilty about it. I do feel guilty about the people that have been close to me that are no longer close to me. Because I don't... This is going to sound really sad, but I don't really have any friends anymore, you know? And I'm kind of alright with that. I'm kind of okay with that. But yeah, I feel like mental health has stolen stuff from me. It's stolen opportunities from me. It stops you doing so much. And the voices in your head, they stop you taking any sort of chances, any sort of opportunities that offer themselves up to you. You'll be like, nah. You just step back from it, step away from it. You're no worth it. You're worthless. You know? And that's been tough. And then, you know, I'm an unpaid carer. I took that on a few years ago. Just because it felt like the right thing to do. You know, it doesn't seem to be much of a choice in it in my experience. It was just what had to be done. Taking on that role. But that comes with, you know, I've already got all my mental health issues. I already struggle anyway, but taking on that extra weight of being responsible for someone who's really not well, and you're the one who has to ensure they're doing okay. You need to be their support because they've got their own mental health issues because they're dealing with serious health issues. So part of me, you know, that's a heavy weight, but also it does give you a bit of purpose. A bit, you don't feel as useless. I don't feel as useless. I feel useless most of the time, but at least I can say, you know, well, I'm a carer for that person. I have done that. But that's a big weight. That's a big weight to bear. And especially because you don't really talk about it. I don't really talk about that with anybody. I don't really talk about the weight of it and what that means, you know. Just fix this. It's a Scotland flag, and I'm not like not in a mad nationalist way, but I don't know if you can see, there's a kitten underneath there, not like a real kitten. It'd be big if it was a real kitten. But it's kind of creepy. I realised that. I tried filming this before, but I messed up the camera settings and it was completely out of focus. So I saw it in the video back, the big stupid kitten face. It didn't exactly give the best look. So where were we? We're talking about being a carer. So I took on the unpaid caring role. I've been doing that for a few years. And then we were getting into a good rhythm, a good routine. You know, we had a few things on that gave us structure to the week. And that was 2 seconds. And that was looking good. You know, I was getting into the filming stuff. I'd been doing like animation and graphics and stuff beforehand. I was volunteering my time, you know, helping out charities when I could between caring duties. And that was going really well. And then that was end of 2019. End of 2019, 2020 started, and I remember that winter. And it's always winter that gets me. that winter was particularly, it was just grim, just your usual winter, just usual dark at like 4 o'clock, and it was just cold outside and miserable, and that accentuates my depression anyway. You know, I've seasonal affective disorder. So coming out of that into 2020, I was feeling pretty depressed in the January. Very depressed. And that's when I said to myself, I had a conversation with myself. I was like, you can either wallow in it, or you can try and do something positive with it. Other people out there are probably feeling how you're feeling. Other people have been suffering these things. So why don't you do something yourself? Why don't you go out there and put something together, exploring these things. And so, you know, I put some calls out on social media, and I was just like, I'm trying to put together a wee documentary about male mental health. I'm just doing it off my own back. You know, there was no way in hell I could get any funding off of anybody to do anything like this, because this is Scotland, and all the arts funds and creative funds are locked up, shall we say, with certain demographics, and the bank balances. You know, so I just thought I'd do it off my own back. So I started emailing. I got people in touch. Started emailing people. Got dates. I was going to be interviewing politicians. I was going to be interviewing, you know, people who run gyms, people who run fitness stuff, and how that relates and their experiences and all the rest of it. And it was all geared towards men. It was all geared towards male mental health, and exploring that and trying to get that conversation actually going beyond a lot of the surface level sort of just bollocks that that is around just now. You know, as I say, they talk about talking about it. It's okay not to be okay, and that's it. That's your chuck a wee hashtag out, and that's you. You've sorted male mental health. Let's not examine the issues underneath, the societal issues underneath. Let's not evaluate anything or delve deep into anything. Let's just, it's okay not to be okay. So that's what I did, and that was coming up to March 2020. I had a whole load of interviews planned. I was going across the country to film interviews and get this thing going and actually feel like I'm utilising my struggles and making something positive of it. And then, of course, COVID hit. And that just, I just got email after email after email going, yeah, we've had to cancel, COVID, can't be too careful, which is fair enough, but... And then everything that, our routine, my Katie and I's routine, all the wee things that we blocked out during the week, all that got cancelled. And then we get the stay-at-home orders and the lockdown, and... Yeah, that wasn't a fun time. That was not fun. That was grim. But again, because so many people experienced that, it was like a shared experience. And unless you were some rich middle-class wanker living in a detached house with a massive garden and a home office, unless that was you, you know, you probably had a bad time, as a lot of us did. You probably had a bad time being in lockdown, getting your one regimented exercise a day, you know. And that it cracked me up at the time, but when all the columnists and all the media personalities all suddenly realised, like maybe a month or so into lockdown, that not everybody had a garden. Just like all these people living in high-rise flats who can't go anywhere to get any sunshine, get any daylight, and if they go to the park and try and sit on a bench, the police will come along and just What you doing? How dare you? Don't you know the law? It was mental. It was a mental time. But I suppose because it was a mental time, a lot of people probably had their first experience of mental health, and so there was a bit more of a conversation in that regard. With like the importance of mental health. But as with all the clapping for the key workers and the nurses and all that nonsense, it all just seems to like evaporate, just and it's gone. And it's gone. You know? All this important stuff which we're told by these politicians and everybody, so important. Yes, it's so important. We have to take these things so seriously. Absolutely. And then, you know, once it's no longer politically convenient for them to talk about it, suddenly it's gone. Absolutely. Like they never said it. And that's, I think, a lot of the mental health talk went that way, as with the clapping for the key workers and all the rest of it. It was like this fake sort of public consciousness thing, this fake collective feelings, the collective feelings of our society, and we were all supposed to feel the same way, and then it's all good and it's all great, and then, you know, reality comes in and you realise that that's just a load of shite. And that was just, you know, sticking plasters to get people through, to pretend that we were doing something, to pretend that we were a society that gave a shit about our neighbours. We don't. It's all lies. It's all lies. Yeah, but our lockdown wasn't particularly fun. You know, we ended up making face masks for people, just to, you know, to give us something to do. Our entire existence was, well, my entire existence was waking up, measuring fabric, cutting up, and we're talking like a load of fabric, just cutting them all up while watching. I watched the whole of The Sopranos, the whole of Battlestar Galactica. We did, what's that TV show with the lassie for Battlestar Galactica, and it's the guy and he's the cop, and like Longmire. It's like a western sort of modern day cop thing. We'd done all that. And our thing we'd go a walk, we'd go to the post office, and then we'd come back to the house. And that was it. And sometimes, because of her health issues, we'd never even got to walk, you know. Very limited often in what we can do, so even our daily exercise either gets cut short or doesn't happen. So, you know, those are grim times. Although we did play a lot of Mario Kart. We played Mario Kart every night. Every single night. We forced ourselves to sit in the living room and just play a few rounds of Mario Kart just to zone out. You know, just to pretend that everything was going to be alright. And it was tough not seeing anybody. You know, I'm like a hermit. I don't like people. I despise the human race. With a few exceptions, but mostly I hate people. I hate crowds. I hate just walking about. If there's people about, I can't stand it. I like walking with like whoever I'm out walking with or whatever. But seeing like strangers and stuff annoys the shit out of me. But even for a miserable bastard like myself, that's tough. It's tough not seeing your family. You know, I've got like little nieces and nephews, and not being able to see them was quite difficult. It was quite tough. So I keep checking. I've got a time limit on this bloody camera, so I need to keep checking so I don't. So I stop and then have to get up and record again. But aye, so that was our lockdown. But it just so happened that during that lockdown, we lived in a 4 in a block, down the bottom of a 4 in a block, and it just so happened that during lockdown, our upstairs neighbours decided to become insufferable arseholes. And so we were getting just ridiculous levels of noise. It's from like 5:30 in the morning right through to about 10 o'clock at night, all day, every day, every single day. And you're not allowed out your house except for like your regimented walk. That was fucking tough, and that kept going even after the restrictions and stuff lifted. We were still dealing with that noise because, you know, you're dealing with someone with chronic health issues. You're looking after someone with chronic health issues. Very limited in what we can do. Very limited in how much time we can spend outside of the house on a good day. And so, you know, for us, just getting through the day with the health issues is tough. So dealing with COVID on top of that, the lockdowns and everything, and dealing with like our upstairs neighbours. I mean, if you can imagine a basketball court, right? Imagine a basketball court with two full teams and they're running back and forth playing a full game of basketball from 5:30 in the morning right up to 10 o'clock at night. That's what it sounded like we were living below. And it fucked us both up. I was having mental breakdowns. Like, I don't usually like curl up into a ball and start crying, but I just couldn't take it anymore. I was in the fetal position multiple times. I just collapsed in the fetal position, just bawling my eyes out. And it wasn't even like sad tears. It was just fucking raging tears. Just fucking. Because you didn't know what else to do. We'd been in contact with everybody we were supposed to be in contact with. We did it through the right channels. You know, first off asking them nicely, stop making noise, could you? It's a wee bit, But they were pricks, so they didn't give a fuck. And then we did the council, we did the police, and the antisocial behaviour to everybody we're supposed to, recorded all the noise, sent it in, did all that. And nobody gave a fuck. Nobody gave a fuck, man. For 2 years, we were dealing with it. 2 fucking years. And it got to the point, I think it was... might have been Christmas time 2020. Christmas time 2020. Roughly then. That's when I remember I had my first anxiety attack. I'd never had anxiety attacks, panic attacks before. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. It was a weekend and it was a Friday night and upstairs was going absolutely mental. You know, we'd already put our noise reports in and everything. And I think I just broke down. I couldn't cope. And I just start like the world started getting dark. Like light just like shrinking and so all you could see is that this bit in front of you. And then my heart started going and it was I thought it was going to burst out my chest. And my stomach, that went, and it felt like I was like there was something just crawling inside my body, like I was in someone else's skin. And it was so dark and so miserable, and I was just fucking sheer utter terror. And that lasted for a full weekend. I had to deal with that. A full weekend, and again I was just in the fetal position, just willing it to stop, but it wouldn't stop, and I just felt like dying. I genuinely I didn't want to experience that again. And it's much different from like the depression, where that's like an undercurrent thing that sort of comes up on you. But the anxiety attack, at least I've talked to doctors and stuff about it, and that's what they say. They say it was. That just came on you, and you just, I wanted out. I wanted out of my body because I didn't want to have to deal with that. It was the most horrible feeling that I've felt, being like a stranger in your own skin and feeling like something's in. Oh, and combined with like the feeling like nothing's going to get better, everything's terrible. Your heart is just continually just pounding in your chest. You think you're going to just collapse and die. That was not pleasant. So I ended up after that weekend, first thing in the morning, the Monday, I phoned straight through into the doctors. I was like, I need help. And thankfully I think it was that same morning, I got a telephone appointment, and then I got told to go on medication, and that was me on my anti-anxiety medication from then on. But I was still suffering from it because our situation didn't improve. So you're still suffering from it, but the anti-anxiety medication, that stopped the worst of the feelings, the worst of the horrific feeling like you're, it took the worst of it away, but you're still feeling the residual effects of your anxiety, and your depression mixed in with that. It just wasn't fun. Luckily, we have been moved to a nice little quiet place, which we were told was never going to happen. But if this hadn't happened, if we hadn't moved, then I would probably, because of the situation we were in, because nobody was helping us, we were getting nowhere with all the stuff, all the people we were supposed to be contacting, we were getting nowhere with it. I was ready for just ending my life. It was that bad. There was no way out. And the thought of dealing with the noise that we're dealing with every single day, 5:30 in the morning, right through, on top of caring, on top of all this coronavirus stuff, I just couldn't do it. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I was making plans to end my life because I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. And that's not something you want to do. You're thinking about the people that you're going to leave behind. You're thinking about the effect that's going to have on people. But at the end of the day, you've got to live with yourself in your own head, in your own situation. And if your situation doesn't improve, then, So luckily, we have been moved. Our situation's been resolved, and I'm making this, so things are obviously a wee bit better. But it messes you up, man. We're suffering like PTSD from it, because you're in that stress and anxiety, just misery for so long that it fucks you up. It fucks with your head. And I don't think anybody properly took us seriously about how bad it was. Nobody from the council or police or whatever. There are a few people who properly helped us out on this, and they will have our eternal gratitude. We can't thank them enough. But most people didn't give a fuck. And that's even more difficult, is you suffering your own mental breakdown when you're responsible for somebody else. That's difficult, man. That's difficult. Sorry. But yeah, now I'm in a better position. Slightly happier. Still feeling those residual effects. So we could probably talk about like the mental health experience as a man, as a male in this society, you know, dealing with your mental health is, you know, it's difficult. It's a lot more difficult, I think, than if you're a woman dealing with it, because I think we're talking generalities, we're talking stereotypes here, but generally, I think women have an easier time just because of the way men and women's relationships are. You know, women's relationship with their friends, men's relationship with their friends or their family or whatever. The expectations put on guys, which I know people say we're fighting against it and things are changing and all the rest of it, but I think that falls into a lot the same sort of thing as the mental health, the online mental health chat and the raising awareness and all the rest of it. I think it's surface level. I think people, you can say you want your men to be emotional, you want them to be sensitive, you want them to share their feelings and all the rest of it. But in reality, if you're a guy and when you try to do that stuff, people are like laughing at you or they're looking down on you, or maybe they're not even like saying it to your face, but you know, just by the way the reaction and everything, they don't want to hear that for you. They don't want you, a man, to show that kind of weakness. And these are like old school gender stereotypes, but I think they're still prevalent. And I think when you have this thing where you're saying to guys, it's okay to talk, talk about your mental health, and yet that is completely different, a different reaction to their everyday life. You know, not everybody is some poncy, university educated, you know, mental health advisor that sits and talks with your feelings. You know, not everybody has those avenues, and that isn't the reality for a lot of men. Don't have those people in your life, you know. And it's difficult that way when you're getting two competing sort of messages. And where does that leave you? Who do you talk to then? You're being told you want to talk, but every time you open your mouth to talk about it, nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares. And it only seems, and this is a horrible thing, it only seems that people give a shit about men's mental health, like seriously, is when it's too late. They only care about men's mental health when it's too late. And then you'll get all these people online going, oh, it's dead sad, oh, it's so tragic, what could possibly have done this? Oh, there's a variety of factors, we will never know. Like it's some big mystery. And yeah, there are a variety of factors that come into play when you're dealing with mental health issues. But there's a lot of big ones which are pretty common. You know? It's not a mystery. Oh, we will never know. You know? Oh, if only they had spoken. Well, they did try and nobody listened. You know? Everybody knew in my circle what I was experiencing with our neighbour situation. Everybody knew the effect that had on my mental health. Everybody knew, and everybody in positions of authority, right? All the avenues we were told we were supposed to go to, they all knew. They didn't give a shit. So yeah, I think it's a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of bullshit when it comes to male mental health. And I think there are a lot of conflicting messages. A lot of people just say shit just to say shit. A lot of people just spout stuff online just to spout stuff online, to get the retweets, to get the likes, to get the followers, because it feels like it's a trendy thing to talk about without actually talking about it. You don't want to talk about men's position in society. You don't want to talk about men's relationship with other men. You don't want to talk about men's relationship with women right now. You don't want to talk about social media and the effects that has on all these different things. You know? We don't want to go into deep discussions about these things. We don't want to engage men in those conversations on those grounds because, quite frankly, you might not like some of the answers. You might not like some of the answers. Some of the answers might not align with the trendy version of male mental health. Some of the answers might take difficult conversations. And we don't want to have them. Because we're living in this weird society right now where we jump for the simplistic narrative. The simplistic, the easy, the good guys and the bad guys on every conceivable topic. There's no room for nuance anymore. And when it comes to male mental health, there needs to be room for debate and discussion. There needs to be room for difficult conversations. There needs to be room for people to say stuff, how they're feeling, without feeling judged for it. And I don't think that in most cases, there are probably specialist groups who specialise in that, but they're few and far between. For most people, in most cases, that environment doesn't exist. And it should exist, because there's a lot of bad stuff happening. Oh, this is falling down again. Yes. We'll get on to the politics at some other point. But yeah, so that is... I don't know the answers for how to solve the mental health issue with men, but I do know something needs to be done, because we're living in a bad situation. And there's only so many times that you can watch the news and see that another guy has been found. A young guy. There's only so many times you can watch that. You know? There's been quite a few sort of high profile ones in my area. And it is difficult. It's difficult to see, and it's difficult to deal with. From my perspective, this is tougher to say than I thought it would be. Because, you know, that was almost me. I was almost one of those news stories. And I don't say that to be hyperbolic. I don't say that to be dramatic or whatever. But I was almost one of those people, and there might come a point in the future, you know, touch wood, that never happens, but you know, I suffer from depression and anxiety and all the rest of it, and I've been at the pits, and I know what it's like to just want to end it. I know what it's like to feel like you don't have anything in your life worth sticking around for. I know what it's like to feel that you're a worthless piece of shit, and that the world would be better off without you. Now, it doesn't matter that might not be the case. It doesn't matter that you might mean a lot to people. That's just what your mental health is telling you. And the pain of it, the pain of dealing with that every single day. Sometimes you just want it to stop. You just want to stop feeling so terrible. You know, so they say it's the coward's way out. And I always take issue with that, because until you're experiencing it and until you're going through it, you don't know how bad it can be. You don't know how it warps your entire brain, and you know, everything you do in life goes through your brain. So if your brain is malfunctioning or it is giving you a false impression of the world, or is you've got a chemical imbalance or whatever you want to call it, that affects everything. And you can run away from a lot of things in life. You can run away from a variety of issues in your life. You can put stuff off. But what you can't run away from is your own head. You're stuck with that day after day. And if there's stuff going on in there which is driving you mental, then there has to be better options for young guys. Just guys in general, actually, not just young guys. We say young guys because blah blah blah, so young, taken so soon and all that. But all men, I think there have to be better avenues for them to discuss and get help. You know, because it's important. I don't know what else I have to say on that. Although I'll probably end. The first time I went to the doctors for depression, actually the first time I phoned the doctor, the GP surgery for depression, I ended up just hanging up the phone because I got a snippy nurse. You know, I was in a bad fucking way, and I had to talk to somebody. I had to do something, and so I phoned up at the GP surgery. You know, first thing in the morning, as you do. I need an emergency appointment, and I just got this snippy wee nurse who, just the entire attitude, you're there trying to tell this person that you need help and they don't give a fuck, and they're talking at you like they don't give a fuck, like you're wasting their time. And I ended up just hanging up the phone, and just suffering through it. But the next time that I went to the doctors was when I was ready for chucking myself off a bridge, because I was in bad way again. And I went to the doctors and he said, you've got two options. You can, so before that, even just saying to the doctor, even just sitting there in the doctor's surgery in his office, and he says what's wrong, and you need to tell him that there's something wrong with you, like in your head. You need to tell another, like a professional man, even one who's there to help you. You need to tell him that you're fucked in the head. That is tough. Very tough. You know? And I don't know if this is going to be of use to anybody. I don't know if anybody's going to benefit from it. But I suppose these things are better said than unsaid. And you know, if anybody's got similar experiences, then maybe this does you some good. But yeah, after we got to talking, me and the doctor, and he said I had two options. He said I had the option of going on antidepressants, which he said could make me more depressed. Obviously not good. I couldn't think I could get more depressed, because if I got more depressed, I'd fling myself out on the motorway. You know? Or the second option was to go for CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy. So I took the second one, and they set you up with a link online, and you go to this website, and there's a course you need to do, and it's over a period of weeks. Honest to God, the CBT therapy was probably as depressing as the antidepressants could have been. You've never seen anything like it. It was like the most miserable episode. Sorry, I'll explain. They had little videos, right? So each week they'd do a topic, and they'd run through the topic and blah 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 blah, and they'd have videos that you'd need to watch to explain it all, right? The videos were like the most miserable episode of EastEnders you could possibly imagine. It was pure misery. Just the way it was done, the actors they had, everything about it. It was, if you weren't going to kill yourself beforehand, well, you certainly fucking are now. How is that? How is that supposed to help somebody? Somebody's suffering, looking for an avenue to help them, and this is the material that you give them? Honest to God, it was the worst thing, you know. And then CBT, I don't know, some people might find cognitive behavioural therapy beneficial. I just thought it was a load of shite. When you can identify the areas in your life that are problematic, no amount of positive thinking, I think, gets through. And it can feel a bit wanky. Maybe it works for some people, I don't know. Right, I suppose that'll probably wrap it up. I've yammered on long enough. I don't know if this is going to be of use to anybody. I don't know if I've just sat here talking to myself for what, hour and 15 minutes or whatever it is, and it's just been a useless waste of time. I don't know, it might be, but it's better out of my head than in my head. You know, I'm feeling better just now, a better situation, but I've still got a lot of mentalness in my head that I'm going to try and get out. I don't know what form this is going to take. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this. I'm probably going to keep doing this every week. Find a different topic. Maybe sometimes it'll be a happier topic. Maybe a funnier topic. I don't know. But there's a lot of mental stuff going on in the world just now. And I think it'll be good to actually properly discuss it a wee bit. You know? Right, so that's it. If you've liked this, like it, share it, subscribe it, all the usual stuff. And I'll see you next week. Thank you very much.